Why should you plant a church, and why is the answer no? Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Mike McCrary with the Church Multiplication Network. It's one of the joys in my life to be one of the directors at CMN. And we get to multiply the church, build leaders, train leaders, see the church grow. Today, I'm with one of our CMN lead team members, Greg Ford, right here at One Church. For those that don't know about you and know about One Church, why don't you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so my wife, Shaylin, and I started One Church 15 years ago. We moved here 16 years ago. We did a year of pre-launch where we set up, tore down the church. Eventually, we started to set up, tear down in a charter school. But I worked the front desk at a fitness center. So I was the early shift. I would get there and just welcome people in. So it was a large volume. It was kind of a big gym and large volume of people. And then the consistency, it was just perfect. I just got to go deep in relationship, see people consistently. I didn't have to feel like I had to, stick a business card in their hand, when I first met them. It was just being able to build rapport and trust. And then a lot of those people were the ones that, came to help us get going. And actually my invitation to them was, hey, why don't you come visit the church? Or would you maybe help me get this thing going? Actually, this past Sunday, we did baptisms. And it was a surreal moment because a guy that I met the first day at the front desk of the gym 16 years ago, we baptized his son and daughter in service.
So you baptized somebody that was coming, that you had met 16 years ago?
I met him 16 years ago. I think he'd been to the church one time himself, but his kids started coming to the church, and then he came to see them baptized.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What a story.
I know.
The seeds you plant. Thanks for sitting down on this interview. And I just think we ought to just jump right into it. First of all, I don't know if you saw this, but the first humanoid robot ran the fastest half marathon in history this past week.
I did not see that.
So let's just jump right in. Are you afraid of robots?
Terrified. Yeah. Especially if they can run faster than us.
All kidding aside, what are your thoughts on AI?
On AI?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I think AI has some real advantages. And I think, but it's like anything that, especially that comes on hot and heavy like that, and that has that sort of horsepower that you want to be sober about it. So but I do think AI, when handled appropriately, has some real gifts to it, right? So I think people that use it to replace their own thinking, I think that's a mistake. If you just go, cool, something has the answer out here, right? But if you're using it to help you actually think better, right? Yeah. You're the thought leader and they're your thought partner, then I think it has tremendous advantages. Okay, so if I think about my keys, right? If I've lost my keys and I can't find them and I have to spend 5-7 minutes looking for my keys, that was a huge waste of time. If it's helping me find my keys more quickly so that I can use my brain energy on a deeper thought, then I think it's being used well. But I think if you're just using it so you can be lazy in your thinking or you don't have to do work or whatever, then I think that's ultimately harming you.
Well, if I want to ask you to rewind the tape 15 years ago when you were planting One Church. So here's a question for you. Why should you plant a church, and why is the answer no?
That's funny because at the end of the day, I love church planting so much. I try to talk everybody into it. And then it got really hard and I said, try to talk people out of it. Right. But no, it's a great question. I would say whether or not you should plant a church, you should answer a few questions first. So I think the first question people tend to go to is God calling me to this, right? Which that's a good question, but let's move that over here for a second. First question is, am I gifted for this? So I think that's where things like the Ridley assessment and even looking in a disciplined way at your own experiences would be to go do something apostolic or entrepreneurial. Have I done this before? Am I good at this? Is this within my gifting? Because I do think there's some things that people mean well, but we need to think deeply about. Like, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. Well, God tends to use people in their gift.
Right.
Okay. So do I have to be, the perfectly developed leader to go lead something? No, development happens over time. But the idea that God does tend to call us in alignment with our gifting. If you think about the story of Moses and Aaron, right? So Moses has been leading. In fact, the text says in Exodus, he led Jethro's flock to the edge of the wilderness. God comes to him and says, I want you to herd a nation. Okay, so he asks him to lead essentially like you have. And what is Moses' rebuttal is in his deficiency. So he says, I'm not a good speaker. And notice God doesn't say, well, I'm going to do a magic trick, Moses, and I'm going to make you a good speaker. He doesn't do that. He sends Aaron, who is a good speaker, who, by the way, wasn't a great leader. Aaron led the people into idolatry while Moses was up on the mountain getting the law. So we do need each other. You're going to need a team. You're not going to be good at everything. But Moses was a gifted leader, not necessarily a gifted orator. Aaron was a gifted orator, not necessarily a gifted leader. So I think if you're going, I'm called to go start a church from nothing and to lead organizationally, you probably need to start with that. Am I gifted for that? And I think if the gifts are aligned, then the calling, you're called to people, but Lord, is this my assignment? And then I think another question, especially if you're married, is how aligned are the husband and wife? I've been to so many church plant trainings over the years where the wife and the family had a certain look on her face that let me know that she's not totally sure she wants to be here. And the husband's like so excited about it. He's essentially going like, why have you not heard from God yet? Mm. And I tend to think that if the Lord brought you two together as one flesh, that he's not going to call one of you over here and the other one over there. So I absolutely 100% am dead serious. I would not have come here and done this if Shaylin was not totally aligned. If this really is what God has, he's going to have both of us together. So I wouldn't drag her here. I would not do that to her. I believe God cares more about how I'm treating my wife than, the metrics of our church. I don't think he would ask me to do that. Mm. So I think before you do, you need to check a few boxes. One, am I gifted for this? So go get your assessment. Go check it out. Go talk to mentors. Look objectively at your life experiences. The first question they asked me in the Ridley assessment is, what have you started from scratch in your life? If you don't have a track record of doing that, then to just roll into a city and go, hey, I'm here to preach the word, it might not be in your gift set yet. Mm-hmm. So I would say gifting, then calling, and then are we aligned as a family?
Incredibly important things for sure. As you look across, the church landscape, where do you think we could improve as leaders? Where do you think some leaders are maybe getting it wrong? We need some adjustment. We need some realignment. Where have you shifted in your leadership that has kind of taken you to the next level? What have you done that they could do to help take them to that next level?
Yeah, so I'll kind of borrow a method from Jesus, right? So Jesus tended to talk in metaphors and parables, right? So I would say, when you think about pastoring, think about parenting. All right. So if I think about my kids, I've got 3 kids, they're very different. So when you think about parenting, okay, there are some parenting principles that are fundamental, right? Like teaching your kids right from wrong, teaching them how to be safe, how to be social, etiquette, values, some of those just black and white fundamental things. And then throughout the progression of their growth, things get complicated. So you have to look at each one of them as an individual. Even though we want to be fair as a family, we do have to look at them in their individuality and go, what do they need? And one of them might need encouraged and the other might need challenged, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're looking at that. So I'm going to listen to, parenting wisdom from other people, but I'm going to sort of get lost in my family a little bit. Right. I'm going to just really immerse myself into, conventional wisdom might say, this is how you talk to a 14-year-old boy about this or that. But my son's a little bit different. So I'm going to really study him and learn. So I think as churches, yes, leaders, there's some fundamentals of leadership, but be careful. You don't just start parenting your 14-year-old like somebody else's 14-year-old. Mm. You see this guy here challenging people. Your people might just need encouraged. And so if I just mimic another father completely, I may be focused on the wrong thing.
That's so good.
So I just encourage pastors to have the freedom and the liberty to really learn your church, your people, your city, your community, understand their needs, understand how they think, understand where the gaps in their learning are, understand how they learn best. Some people, some communities, maybe you shooting straight is awesome. Some sub communities don't want you to come in and be telling them what to do. It's asking them the right question. My point is figuring out how to listen to them, right? So my kids, I listen to them closely. I listen. When I listen to them talk, I can tell where the needs are. I can tell where the gaps are. So if all you're doing is talking at your church, talking to your church, and you're not listening to them, you got to find a way to listen. It might be a combination of data and your own anecdotal listening, but being an astute listener from the church.
Let's say there's a leader out there today, Greg. They're looking at one church. They're looking at some of our lead team members' church, and they're like, why not me? Why can't I have that? What would your word be to those leaders that are needing some encouragement today?
Well, I've been there, and I remember, I think I was probably 2 or 3 years into the church, and I was at a CMN event, and I'll never forget it. I was sitting there, Mark Batterson was preaching, but he made a statement that was transformational for me, and he said this. He said, most people overestimate what they can do in 2 years and underestimate what they can do in 20. They overestimate what they could do in 2 and underestimate what they could do in 20. And that's exactly what I was doing at that time. I was beating myself up because we weren't further, we hadn't done more, and I could see our potential and we weren't there. And if I was a better leader and I had the weight of the world on me, and to circle back to the beginning of the conversation, 15 years later, 16 years later, we're baptizing somebody from a seed that was planted 16 years ago.
Jesus.
And the fruit just came off the vine yesterday. So you don't know what seed you're planting right now, 2 years in. Don't be upset that you don't see them at year 2.5 or 3, but that you trust that, look, this is seed going on good soil. I'm going to trust that God's going to bring a harvest.
Thank you so much, Greg. Hey, at CMN, we believe in a healthy church in every community. It's our goal to see healthy leaders plant healthy churches, multiply churches, and see what God can only do through his faithfulness to his word. Thank you so much for joining us today. Check us out on churchmultiplication.net for a training near you. Come and jump on in. So we appreciate you watching today. Thank you to Greg for this interview. God bless.